Hey, what's up guys? It's Joel Messenger here again for The Punisher, Episode 3. Today we're going to be talking about his sidearm, the 1911 A1. Alright, so just like before, we're going to talk about the bullets, and then we're going to move our way up to the gun. So, bullet for 1911 is 45 caliber ACP. Now, this is not like 45 long Colt, and there is no metric measurement for it because it's only made within this country, other than by surplus companies. But because of that, we only know it as the 45. Now, the 45 stands for, as before, it's its caliber. So it is the dimensions, it's the width of the bullet in inches. So it's 0.45 inches wide. Now, for those of you who are good at math, that's almost 50 caliber. The same round fired by a Desert Eagle, and the same width of the round fired by a Barrett 50 cal. It's a very, very large and fat round. And as a result of that being in a pistol cartridge, it's fat and it's slow. Now, those sound like bad things for bullets. However, for a pistol, it is incredibly destructive and incredibly desirable for something called stopping power. This was desired as the main sidearm in World War II because of GIs fighting in Japan. You had bonsai bayonet chargers who would fire once with their bolt rifles and then just run at you. The problem is if you had a smaller caliber firearm, like say a 9mm or even like a 32 or even a 40 caliber, something like that, something that's a lot thinner, it's going to do what the AR-15 did in a previous episode, and it's going to poke a hole in you, a very small hole, and that's the problem. Now with this, because it's moving slow, it doesn't have the velocity most of the time to rip clean through you, right, to go all the way through in one go. As a result, when the bullet hits, it catches inside of you, and the momentum from the round is transferred into your body and takes you down to the ground, which was obviously U.S. soldiers wanted shooting bonsai chargers. They wanted the guy with the bayonet to stop. But it's what we want again today is self-defense weapons, right? We want the guy coming at us to stop. We want him to hit the ground forever. Guess what? I voted for Donald Trump. Anyway, so moving on, there are some certain limitations to the round. One being because it's slow, it doesn't have a whole lot of range. You're not going to be able to hit a target very far away. You're also going to lose a lot of accuracy with a shorter barrel. Now this is a 5-inch barrel, so you're going to keep accuracy over quite a bit of range. But because of the fatness of the bullet, for lack of a better word, it has to be a lot more rounded. It's a lot less sharp, so it's going to be more susceptible to, say, wind or anything really, any shake in the shooting hand, anything like that. It's going to be a lot less accurate over range. However, as you see Frank Castle use it in both Punisher movies, it's always in at close range. He uses this because he's very close to people. He doesn't have room for his trusty AR. All right, and so he's got to get in close with this weapon, and it's, he's a bigger guy. He can conceal it pretty well. I can't because I'm really skinny. But because of that, he can get it in places where he couldn't get this in, and he can get his targets down, which is super helpful when he's fighting guys in enclosed spaces because of, once again, the stopping power, right? He shoots the guy, boom, he's down, he's done. It doesn't take a lot of rounds, which is not only nice, but it's also necessary. For the 1911 platform, being 45 and being as old as it is, the magazines are single stack, which means that the rounds are directly on top of each other. Unlike the AR-15, where the round houses the bullets in a staggered pattern. So they go here, 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 here. They move on up in a stagger. These are directly on top of each other, so there's not a whole lot of space for them, which limits the 1911 to, depending on your magazine, 7 or 8 rounds, which is not a lot when you're fighting multiple opponents. This is designed to drop your main weapon. It's designed as a military sidearm. Drop your main weapon, pull this, and fire. This is the first handgun designed specifically for the idea of killing people. Before this, handguns were thought of as like backups for hunting. If you fired your trapdoor, your bolt, and whatever you shot at was coming at you. This was the first commercially designed pistol made specifically for killing people. You'll see things about, like, say, the Colt Peacemaker, things like that, but that's just named aptly. That's still a cartridge that's designed for killing animals. 45 long Colt. That's not practical for shooting people. It's just not. So, moving on. Now we're going to take this. This works like the AR-15. When it's out of ammunition, it kicks back and the bolt's open. So without just going click, 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 you know when you're out of ammunition. You then switch mags, drop the slide release, and your next mag is go. Just like with the AR-15, its mag switchability, right, its reload time is very, very short because of mechanical advancements, which is something huge for the Punisher, especially with the John Bernthal series. You don't see unrealistic mag sizes. You don't see him shooting like 70, 80, 90 times, right? You see him dropping, in general, there are some scenes, but in general, you see him firing 30 rounds for an AR, 8 rounds for his 1911, and then having to reload. And he runs into issues several times with the reload and the mag capacity of the 1911 being beaten down or disarmed because he's caught reloading. But he sticks to this gun because it's for the original Punisher, who was a Vietnam vet in the 80s movie, right? The original Punisher was fought in Vietnam, where this was the standard sidearm. So just like with the AR, he's stubborn, so he's using the same gun he's used to. But with the John Bernthal one, you see this one because this is just about as American as you can get as far as handguns go. I mean, 1911 A1, use it in World War I, use it in, yeah, it's actually been used in both World Wars, Korea, Vietnam, standard issue all the way up until it switched to the M9 and recent the Gulf War and stuff like that. But people still use it because, you know, it's just, I guess it's just kind of intuitively likable that when you shoot somebody, they stop. I don't know, maybe it's just something about that. But anyway, that's enough about the weapon. We're going to get on to shooting it. Alright, so to test this weapon, what we're going to do is we're going to take a standard 7-round mag that's going to leave the slide back. I'm going to send 7 rounds downrange at target using an isosceles stance, which means that my feet are going to be apart, both hands are going to be forward, I'm going to be looking down the gun sight, and I'm going to be controlling it, right? I'm going to send single rounds downrange because the recoil on this gun, due to the powder load and everything, is so great, it's very hard to double or triple tap at this range. I'm going to send 7, I'm going to have the slide back, change mags, slap it down, and I'm going to send 8 more. There's 7, changing mag. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed that field test of the 1911 A1, which is this one right here. This is a later model of it. But as you can see, sorry for the technical error there, and then there towards the end the camera went off. But the gun is reliable. It's got a very, very resounding thud for firing as well as for hitting, and that comes from that slow-moving 45 ACP round. It really just packs a huge punch, and that's what it's for. That's kind of, it compares in the opposite way that the AR-15 does. With the AR-15, you see that 5.56 round, very, very fast, but also very small. So it's going to get right through that armor. When it comes up against that Kevlar, which is really just tightly woven fibers laying over each other, it's very thin and it's very quick moving. So it's going to split those fibers and get right in there. Whereas with the 45 ACP, it's very fat, it's very slow moving, so it's going to struggle. Those fibers are going to catch it very easy because even the fact that it's fat doesn't really matter, but also the fact that it's so bull-nosed, right? It's very soft-fronted on that round. It's going to be caught very, very easily, almost like a net, exactly like a net actually. So when you come up against enemies with Kevlar armor, when it gets down to the Kevlar, all armor is going to contain some kind of Kevlar. Now, whether it's a lower class of armor, like a class 1, 2, or 3, right, you're going to have sometimes just strictly Kevlar, right? When you get to class 4, which is like armor for like assault rifle stuff, you're going to have a ceramic plate. Now, in the case of a ceramic plate, that 45 armor, that 45 ACP is going to destroy that ceramic plate because it has such a high impact pressure, right? It hits really, really hard. So it's going to crash away at that ceramic. But once it does that, it gets to the Kevlar inner layer, where it's going to be caught up in those fibers very, very quickly, and it's not going to work. Where even when you get down to lower classes of armor with Kevlar, they're just going to catch that 45. Now, the advantage that it has is that huge impact pressure goes through, and it'll really shatter the fibers throughout the rest of the armor. So it'll catch one, it might catch two depending on the level, but that third round 100% is going to go the rest of the way through, because they're going to be shocked, the fibers are going to be loose, and then at that point it's going to be like shooting through clothing. However, it takes 3 rounds, and as you saw before, double tapping and triple tapping with a round of this size at any sort of range is almost out of the question, just because of the level of recoil it gives. However, aside from armor, once it gets through the armor, or if you go around the armor, like I said, with a vest, you know, you've got this area right here, the upper chest, you've got the head, and this gun is going to be used in concert with the AR-15, meaning that it will only be used at under 25 yards, which, where the AR-15's effectiveness stops, this one's effectiveness begins. The 1911, that's where the effectiveness for this weapon really begins. That's when you start actually getting some huge power out of it, is in that really close range for that 1911. So that's when you're going to see its effectiveness kind of come out, and that's on the flip side, where the AR-15's weakness is the fact that the round doesn't do a whole lot of damage physically once it gets through the armor. The 1911 struggles to get through the armor, but the damage it does to the human body is absolutely insane. That fat round rips huge holes, even bigger exit wounds. It leaves holes just like you would see in like a 50 cal barrel. I'm sure you've seen some sort of thing on the amount of damage that does. This is not that much thinner than a 50 cal. It rips huge holes in your opponent, does a tremendous amount of damage, and even if you're wearing body armor, that pressure spread out is going to break your sternum, it's going to break your ribs, it's going to render you pretty much incapacitated to not do anything for that follow-up shot, which is going right for the head. Very effective weapon system. It's been in use for over 100 years, and there's a very good reason for it. It's the fact that it is effective, it does its job, and it does it well. Well, guys, that's all I got. Hope you enjoyed this video about the 1911, the Punisher's main sidearm of choice. If you liked the video, be sure to click the thumbs up. If you have anything to say about it, be sure to leave it in the comments. And if you want to see more, subscribe or turn on your notifications. Remember, this is all leading up to a fight of the Punisher versus Blade, and I hope you stay tuned for that. We're really excited about that fight coming up here soon. I'm Joel Messenger, and that's all I got for you.